Let's move over to health matters. South Africa has recorded over 4,000 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. Sadly, 82 more people have died. Meanwhile, there are concerns about vaccine uptake in the country. Nearly 46% of the adult population has received at least one dose. Let's now check in with Professor Barry Schoub, virologist and chairman of the Ministerial Advisory Committee. Thanks so much for your time, Prof. Many would say that a lot has been going on. They've even forgotten about COVID-19. What is the reality on the ground? Should we still be worried about Omicron?
Yes, good evening. Well, certainly the epidemic is coming down. It's coming down quite markedly, and we anticipate probably within the next, I guess, about 10 days or a week or maybe 2 weeks' time, we'll kind of be hitting baseline. So we're more or less close to overcoming our fourth wave which has been Omicron driven. So we're in a good space with regard to that. I think part of the reason why we've had a relatively mild fourth wave, a part of it is viral. There's a lot of now evidence that the virus itself has been weakened, and this can be demonstrated in the laboratory. And part of it also is that the population is largely immune. When you look for antibodies, for example, in samples of blood, we can find up to 80% of individuals have got antibodies. So I think both of these have led to a relatively mild illness. But the problem is, of course, we are still vulnerable to new variants. And it is concerning that the vaccine uptake has not been ideal. There's still quite a large gap of individuals that haven't had any vaccine at all, and many have only been partially vaccinated. So this is a concern, as you mentioned, and it's something which needs to be quite urgently addressed.
Before we move into vaccine hesitancy and the low uptake of vaccines being administered, are you aware of any new variants that have emerged? I've been seeing some reports, but I'm not entirely sure how true that is. Are you aware of anything?
Oh, this virus is a very changeable, what you call a mutable virus. In other words, it tends to mutate quite regularly. So we do get mutants. We get mutants which are rising continually. Many of them do graduate into variants, and a few become variants of concern. So at the moment, no. At the moment, we've only got our 5 variants of concern that we're involved with at the moment. But there will always be new variants which are arising. Hopefully, the majority of them won't become variants of concern. But yes, there's been a new variant which is recently discovered in France. Originally came from the Cameroon in Africa, but this will keep on happening. But whether it become a variant of concern, hopefully not in the near future, but we will anticipate that during 2022, there will be further waves, possibly due to new variants of concern.
And then, Prof, just speak to us about the importance of vaccinating. I know yesterday the President announcing that they are trying to finalize the committee with regards to making vaccines mandatory, especially in certain settings and activities. How important is it for us to get vaccinated to try and bring an end to this pandemic, especially when you have all these variants mutating and emerging?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is really what's critical. We do need to achieve to a high level of vaccine coverage if we're going to control the pandemic or control the epidemic in this country. If we don't reach that level, we will continue to have these waves coming on periodically, cyclically, and affecting the country to varying extents. So certainly vaccination for protecting individuals, because we know that about 90% of the severe cases, even in our fourth wave, which was a relatively mild case, occurred in unvaccinated individuals. And as you just mentioned, there were quite a number of deaths. In fact, 117 is the figure I've got for the last 24 hours. And over 90% of those were unvaccinated. So it's personal protection, but also protection of individuals that one comes into contact with, and community protection, which are so vital, so important, so critical to get our vaccination coverage up.
Prof, I want to quickly speak about the fact that you have many experts, health experts, going on social media, and also I think there was actually a study that was done with regards to how this could be almost the end of the pandemic because of what we're seeing with infection rates with Omicron and how mild it is, especially because we've been vaccinating. So my question to you is, will this be the last Greek letter of the alphabet that we'll have to learn to pronounce? Do you suspect there to be any more concerns with any other more severe variants that are popping up?
You know, I don't think we can really say. Look, there are certainly good signs. We know that this particular Omicron variant has a lot of kind of demonstrable biological signs that it has become weak, and we can demonstrate that in the laboratory. Certainly, we observed that the epidemic was weaker. We do know that the great majority of individuals are immune to the virus, and Omicron seems to, people that have been infected with Omicron seem to be protected against the previous variants like the Delta variant. So those are all good signs. Now, whether this will be sustained, whether there'll be an evolutionary progression to a progressively weaker virus, and eventually that will become an endemic coronavirus. Now, we've got the 4 endemic coronaviruses that cause the common cold. And we're hoping that that this particular one will become one of those, be a 5th endemic. But I think it's too early to tell. We're hoping, there are some signs, but I think we can't at this stage be confident that we're on that pathway as yet.
Oh, Prof, I was really hoping you would say that we don't have to learn any more Greek alphabets or letters of the alphabet. Just lastly, Prof, if you
You've
can
got 9 letters to go.
Hopefully we don't reach all those 9. Just very quickly, Prof, if you can just quickly speak to us about, there were many concerns that lifting the curfew and not reimposing it and easing restrictions, especially indoors and outdoors, would cause a spike in infection. But we're not really seeing that, are we?
No, we're not at the moment. But, you know, always there's a lag period. We've got to look at a lag period of about 10 days to 2 weeks for any effect to kind of be manifest. But I don't think it will, because I think the epidemic is coming down. The virus activity in the community is pretty low at the moment. So I think it's unlikely that we're going to see a spike as a result of lifting restrictions such as a curfew and so on. I think we do need to kind of start lifting the restrictions. The other health needs are also extremely important, as well as, of course, economic needs. And I think we can reasonably, with reasonable safety, do it now.
Great. Thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us this Sunday evening. That's Professor Barry Schoub. And as you heard, unfortunately, we're not sure if this is going to be the end of the pandemic, but there are good signs that show it could possibly be no more serious variants that could emerge. But we'll just have to wait and see.